Great news all over the place last night. Some average news out of Wisconsin, but look, you're not going to win everything. Looks like Tammy Baldwin is going to remain one of their two senators in that state, but it also looks like they really don't want illegals voting there, so that is a good thing. Let's talk about Wisconsin and the country and what we can expect going forward with the other senator, the good one from that state, Senator Ron Johnson. Okay, Senator, your state really doesn't want illegals voting, does it?
Yeah, I would say 2 out of 3 is not bad, not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm obviously disappointed that Eric Hovde didn't defeat Tammy Baldwin, but I think that's a big vote. That 70% of Wisconsinites said that we only want American citizens to vote in a Wisconsin election. That's a big deal. Now, we've got to get Governor Evers to make sure that he puts the controls in place to ensure that only American citizens vote. So that'll be our next task. And of course, I was just so proud of Wisconsin. A sports analogy, Wisconsin sank the putt that won the President's Cup. We put President Trump over the line. That was just incredibly exciting last night. He went from 267 it was to 277 with our 10 electoral votes.
Yeah, I just the blue wall, Senator, the Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan blue wall, as it's known. Boy, did that wall come crumbling down. Why such a difference? Obviously, everyone's analyzing this election today. Was it all great Trump, great campaign, bad Kamala Harris, bad campaign? In your mind, I know that that's probably a combination of all those things. What was the biggest reason the blue wall crumbled for Democrats?
Let me quote Bernie Sanders. It's not surprising when you abandon the working class will abandon you. And that's basically what happened. I mean, Democrat governance has been a disaster for this country. The open borders, who does that primarily impact? People in the working class, people who are competing for jobs, people who are competing for housing, people who are competing for hospital beds. Again, that's been disastrous. The massive deficit spending sparking 40-year high inflation. It costs $1,000 more per month nationally just to live the standard of living you had before the Biden administration. The endless wars, the world's on fire. Again, Democrat governance has been a disaster. And the Democrat Party has become the party of the elite, whereas under President Trump, we've had a complete realignment of our politics. Now the Republican Party represents the working men and women of this country, and President Trump is assembling this coalition of amazingly smart people spanning the political spectrum. Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Rogan, Brett Favre, Elon Musk. This is an amazing thing that President Trump has done. And Democrats are again, they're so tied up with their captive media, they just didn't really realize what was happening in this country.
Yeah, way too deep in the bubble. Okay, let's actually discuss Trump and the Senate, because it looks like we're going to obviously have a fairly narrow majority in the Senate. Trump is going to need very good people, especially in positions like AG, if there's going to be any swamp drainage at all. And those people are going to have to get through a Senate confirmation process. And some senators are, well, you're a rare breed, we'll put it that way. Are you concerned about that? Obviously, I know some Tom, Dick, and Harry who's from D.C. could get confirmed if Trump has a real reformer, which he needs going through that process. Are you worried it'll be stopped?
My guess is my Republican Senate colleagues realize that we've been given a mandate. I think you have to admit that this is a mandate, certainly to us, from our supporters, to accomplish what President Trump laid out in his campaign. And we've got it looks like we'll have at least a 3-vote margin. It is disappointing in that blue wall that President Trump wins Wisconsin and Michigan, and yet we still narrowly lost those U.S. Senate seats. But again, we have a 3-member margin, so we can lose 1 or 2 and still confirm something. We can actually lose 3 and have J.D. Vance break the tie. So I'm not overly concerned about President Trump not getting his nominees confirmed.
Oh, that is wonderful news. All right, you were on the program yesterday, and you were all kinds of fired up about the election situation, I'll put it that way, in Milwaukee. What happened there? Obviously, everything isn't, some horrible scandal. Some things are just mistakes, but some things are terrible scandals, and they're nefarious. What happened there? How do you feel about it now?
Gross incompetence. to the point where you almost felt like it had to be nefarious, but in the end, I don't think it was. There was just no procedure in place to check the tabulation machines at the door that, where you get the USB cable in there was locked and sealed prior to starting the tabulation. So they didn't find out until one of our observers observed that. And about 2:00 in the afternoon, they shut down the process and they had to reprocess the 30,000 ballots, which again then took time. And when you're delivering ballots in the middle of the night, it just creates suspicion, which is not good. So, I'm a big supporter, quite honestly, of changing the law in Wisconsin to allow these precincts with observers from both sides, equal number of observers of both sides, opening up those absentee ballots the day before, tabulating them so we can get the rapid results like they do in the state of Florida. I mean, Jesse, this is absurd. Here in the year 2024, we can't count ballots as fast as we could, let's say, in the 1960s. It's ridiculous.
Senator, what do you make, because there's been a lot of chatter today about it, what do you make of the incredible difference in the number of Democrats who voted this year versus in 2020? It is like, it's hard to ignore the fact that it was like 20 million, I think it was 18 million fewer Democrats voted this time. But obviously it looks pretty bad, doesn't it? It looks suspicious. What do we make of it?
I'm not sure we can really exactly determine it, but I will tell you that I think a lot of Americans took a look at the disaster that was the Biden-Harris administration and the disaster that Kamala Harris was as their nominee, and just decided to sit it out. In 2022, the big issue was abortion. The Dobbs decision was recent. And again, I can't explain this, why Democrat voters are just so intent on killing babies, but they are. I think that drove a lot of turnout on the Democrat side. But no, I agree. I mean, what's so difficult about proving fraud is it's after the fact. You have to, certify these elections so quickly. Once they're certified, nobody wants to go back and admit they were wrong. To contemplate the remedy is awful as well. So it's very difficult to prove fraud after the fact. You have to catch it on the front end, and that's the big difference between the parties. We're not looking for partisan advantage. We just want to restore confidence in our election system by instituting the controls on the front end to prevent fraud. Democrats want to make it easy to cheat, which sure implies that they want to cheat.
Speaking of confidence, I have absolutely none in John Thune or John Cornyn to lead the GOP, and that is really, it's the next big fight we have. Mitch McConnell is mercifully stepping down, but if we get Mitch McConnell stepping down and more of the same, then we're going to be frustrated. I know you will be frustrated with the Senate and how they conduct their business. How is that race looking? From what I understand, you and Mike Lee are backing Rick Scott, as am I.
Yeah, we're big supporters of Rick Scott, an extraordinary individual, highly successful in the business world, highly successful governor of Florida. He turned that state around, set Ron DeSantis up for success. So, Jesse, if you've got any influence with President Trump, ask President Trump to come out publicly and say he wants to work with somebody as accomplished as Rick Scott to accomplish his agenda. We've got to do big things. We have to deliver. We need outside the box, paradigm shifting type of thinking in the United States Senate. And working with President Trump, he's going to need somebody like Rick Scott. So urge the president to come out and endorse Rick Scott publicly. It's probably what Rick's going to need to become the majority leader.
Yeah, that would be wonderful to see. I will see what I can do on that front. I think you probably have a bit more influence there than I do. Senator, thank you so much. I appreciate you, as always. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.